This is the continuing story of Alexander of Macedon, a king whose footsteps reshaped the world. We return to him in the year 326 BC, more than 2,350 years ago, 8 long years after he left Greece. He stands now at the Hyphasis River, the farthest point his march east has carried him. Behind him is the thunder of the Hydaspes, the clash with Porus, the founding of Boutefala, and the deaths of countless men who had crossed mountains, deserts, and kingdoms in his name. Before him lies the unknown, lands whispered about in the great halls of Persia, kingdoms rumoured to field armies larger than anything yet seen. Alexander wished to march further. But his army refused. He built 12 towering altars to honour the gods and mark the edge of the known world. Then, with the bitterness of defeat burning inside him, he turned west. Before we walk this road together, remember the journey we've carved across these 10 chapters. We told the story of his youth shaped by kings and philosophers. We crossed the Hellespont. We fought at the Granicus. We clashed at Issus. We broke Tyre. We shattered the Persians at Gaugamela. We watched Persia fall. We hunted Darius. We marched into India. And we stood beside him at the Hydaspes when Porus made his stand. Now the next chapter begins. The march south began in silence. The monsoon clouds hung low over the plains. Armour rusted beneath soaking rains. 8 years of marching lay behind them, and ahead lay a year of hardship few could endure. Alexander walked among his generals, silent, determined. He would not return to Persia without first seeing the ocean he believed marked the world's edge. To move the army down the Indus, he needed ships. Indian craftsmen skilled in river building worked with Macedonian engineers to shape vessels capable of surviving the heavy currents. Timber from Sisu, teak and sal trees formed the hulls. It took months of labour to build the fleet. When it was ready, Nearchus was chosen to command it. Between 8,000 and 10,000 men boarded the ships, while more than 30,000 marched along the riverbanks to protect them. Their first major enemies were the Malians, a fierce confederation known for their skill with the bow and their refusal to kneel. When Alexander demanded submission, they answered with arrows. Towns fell quickly, but the Malians retreated into their heartland and fortified themselves inside a great citadel Alexander prepared for siege. The defenders rained arrows from high walls. Progress slowed. Growing impatient, Alexander seized a ladder, climbed the wall and leapt inside before most of his troops could follow. Only a few guards were behind him. Suddenly, he was surrounded. He fought with fierce skill, cutting down several defenders, but the archers above found their Mark I arrow drove beneath his ribs and into his lung. He collapsed in the dust. When the Macedonians finally broke through and found him bleeding and near death, the army erupted in rage and grief. The defenders were overwhelmed and slaughtered. The citadel fell. Alexander was carried out on a shield, barely conscious. For days they waited in silence, fearing the end of their king. Alexander survived. Pale, weakened, but alive. He rose before the soldiers, and a roar of relief swept the camp. Hope returned, and the march continued. Their trials were only beginning. South lay the lands of the Oxydracae, a powerful people allied with the Malians. They refused every offer of peace. Alexander marched on them with determination. The battles were fierce. They fought from fortified towns and dense forests. In one assault, Alexander was nearly surrounded, and fighting turned desperate as both sides suffered heavy losses. When the Oxydracae finally broke, their confederation collapsed. The remaining tribes submitted quickly, yet the descent down the Indus was far from over. Storms returned with force, flooding the plains until roads vanished beneath knee-deep water. Entire villages evacuated before the Macedonians arrived. Disease swept through the camp. Horses died. Supplies failed. Bridges had to be built across marshland, and the river changed course, without warning. Days passed without food. Weeks vanished in rain. The jungle swallowed sound and light. Elephants blocked passages. Crocodiles hunted near the shallows. More men died from sickness, exhaustion, and accident than in battle. Step by step, over nearly a full year, the army pushed south. At last, the river widened, the air changed, and the scent of salt touched their faces. For the first time in history, a Macedonian army stood before the Indian Ocean. Alexander offered sacrifices to Poseidon and cast a spear into the waves as a symbol of conquest. But the ocean was not the end of their journey. It was only the turning point. From here, Alexander made a decision that would shape the fate of thousands. He split the army in two. Nearchus and the fleet would sail west along the coastline, a dangerous route beaten by storms and lacking ports or villages. Many sailors would suffer hunger, thirst, and shipwreck as they drifted toward the Persian Gulf. Alexander would lead the larger part of the army by land. He chose a route few dared to take. The Gedrosian Desert, a place of burning winds and shifting sands. Even the native tribes avoided it. Yet Alexander believed the march through Gedrosia would prove that no hardship could break the army that had crossed the world. Before we end this chapter, you must understand how we know these events. We rely on ancient writers who preserved these memories: Arrian, guided by Ptolemy, and Aristobulus, Curtius Rufus, Diodorus, Plutarch. Their accounts differ, but together they form the record we follow. Where they agree, we speak confidently. Where they differ, we choose the most credible truth. We honor their work with honesty and respect. And now, my friend, before you leave, I ask you to share your thoughts. Please leave a comment. Tell me what you felt in this chapter, what you think of the year-long descent and the moment when the king nearly died. Your comment matters deeply. It helps others discover this journey and allows us to walk it together. We read every comment with gratitude. I also ask that you subscribe. It is the best way to remain with us as we continue this story and explore the lives of kings, warriors, generals, and conquerors who shaped the world. Every chapter we have already told awaits you on this channel, and many more lie ahead. It is my honor to share this tale with you. I am Marcus Lucius Varro. Remember that even the greatest journeys test the strongest souls, and every road, no matter how long, is conquered one step at a time. Until we meet again, farewell.